Hello students, let's read this problem together. Which number line represents the solution set to the inequality below? And the inequality is written negative 15.2 plus 2.8w is less than 24. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the inequality here so I can work with it. Negative 15.2 plus 2.8w is less than 24. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is remember that I am going to have to be doing the same thing to both sides. Okay, and I'm going to look for my variable, and my variable is a w, and the variable has a coefficient of 2.8, or is being multiplied by 2.8, and also has a negative 15.2. So remember, when we're working with two-step inequalities or two-step equations, we're going to leave the part that is the coefficient of my variable to the last part or the last step. So I'm going to start with this part right here, the negative 15.2, and I have to do the inverse of that. So the opposite of minus 15.2 is plus 15.2, absolutely. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Now we want to be very careful right here because we know this is going to turn into 0. And we're going to bring down the 2.8w. We have our symbol. But over here, 24 and 15.2, remember that when we have decimals, we have to make sure we're lining up the decimals. So the 24 is a whole number. So it would be 24.0. And then the 15.2 would look like this. We have to make sure we're lining up those decimals, okay, before we add it. And so when we do that, we get 39.2. So that would be the sum of those two numbers. And so now we have 2.8w is less than 39.2. So now we are on our second step, and we are still trying to isolate this w, or this variable, and we see that it's being multiplied by 2.8. 2.8 times w has to equal 39.2. So the opposite, or the inverse operation of multiplying by 2.8, absolutely, we need to divide by 2.8. So whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do it to the other side. So 2.8 divided by 2.8, just like even if it's a decimal, any number divided by itself will always give us 1 whole. So we have 1w, and that is perfect because remember what we were trying to do is isolate that variable all by itself. Okay, and now we have 39.2 divided by 2.8. So let's use our space here. Remember our rules for dividing. So if I have 39.2 and I want to divide that by 2.8, we cannot divide when we have a decimal in our divisor. We have to move that decimal. So we're going to move it all the way to the back so that we can turn this into 28, a whole number. But math is fair, so whatever I do here, we're going to do it in the dividend as well. So we're going to move it, and the decimal is going to end up here. Okay, so now we can just rewrite this. Okay, so now we can rewrite this, and it's going to look like this. 392 divided by 28. 28 goes into 39 one time. We subtract. Bring down the 2. 28 goes into 112 4 times. And we are done. So this would be w is less than 14. Now, let's look at our solutions. And we can see that the number line representations have some with closed circle and some with open circle. So let's go ahead and quickly review that. Look at our symbol. It's the less than symbol. it does not have an equal sign part to it. So if we had the less than or equal to, that would be the closed circle. But since we have the less than, that needs to be an open circle. Okay, the difference is that this equal sign right here is saying we include this number as part of our solution. But if we do not have that equal sign, we're saying that number is where we're beginning, but we're not including it. So that's why we don't bubble it in. Okay, it's just we're trying to get as close to that number as we can without including it. So we represent it as an open circle. So in our case, we have the less than. We do not have an equal part. So we have to have an open circle. And so that means A is automatically out. Okay, so we have an open circle. Now let's look at where we're starting. Where is our starting number? 14. W has to be less than 14. So this is starting at 14, but we already eliminated it because it was a closed circle. This one is starting at 6. That is not correct. We can eliminate that one as well. This one is starting at 14. And this one is starting at 14. So now let's look at what's the difference between these. One is going to the right and one is going to the left. So remember, we're saying less. So when we have number line like this, right, the negative numbers are less and the positive numbers are greater. So these numbers to the right are greater. And as we keep going to the right, we're going greater and greater. As we're going to the left, we're going less and less and less. So if we want W to be less than 14, we want it to be going towards the left. To the left is less. So this is not going to the left, it's going to the greater number. So these are representing numbers that are greater than 14, which we do not want. We want numbers that are less than 14. So our correct answer is D.